Howdy, Mike McCoy here. A little cold today and we ain't sawing. Got some logs in, but we ain't sawing. I gotta go to the doctor tomorrow, so we'll saw a little bit and I'll get in tomorrow, maybe in Thursday. But reason of the video today is I'm gonna talk about my neighbor when I was a child growing up. His name was Elbert Waldrop, and everybody called him Uncle Elbert. And we called him Elbert Wardrop. That's just the way everybody pronounced it over there. And his sister married the guy that had the store right on out just up the road from the house there. And he was probably the wealthiest man in that community. And him and her had an affair and blah, blah, blah. She wound up with him. And Elbert was her brother. And I don't know where they come from, don't know where they started out at. I just know they wound up on Laurel over there. And Uncle Elbert spent all I can remember, all my lifetime while he was alive, inventing a motion wheel. He was going to invent this machine that would run on this motion, you know. And he always kept it covered up. It was a big secret. And I don't think it was much, but I mean, who knows? The old man was smart, but he worked, every day he worked on that thing. He'd order gears and all this stuff. But I mean, what I seen of it was really crude. I don't see how it could have possibly worked. But anyway, he swore up and down he got it to work one time and it had enough power to pull a clock. And he tore it back down and tried to make it more powerful and never did get it to run again. Whether it did or not, it's up to conjecture. I don't know. But the guy that it was his brother-in-law, they had a son. And this son was the one I remember, for all of them was dead by the time I was born. And the son run the store. And he had a house full of young'uns. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like 7 of them. And most of them was older than me. I was older than the youngest one, and that's the only one I was older than. And them older boys tormented Uncle Elbert to no end. The old guy got a paper at the store. Back then, the actual paper run a morning and evening, and he got whichever one, I guess it's the morning, the mail brought it. And Uncle Elbert was always there, the first one to get that paper. He'd get that paper before anybody else got to look at it. And them boys would sneak around there one time. Here's a reading that paper, all interested in it, and they took a match and set that paper on fire. Uncle Elbert, he naturally throwed it down, stomping on it, put it out, and they said, "Hot news today, Uncle Elbert." You know, his byword was thunder hell. He said, "Thunder hell, you boys, you're gonna burn me up." And he wore an old big felt hat, and they'd lay a cigarette in the brim of his hat, just anything to torment that old man. I don't see how he kept from killing him. And they had some goats. And he bought one of them goats off them boys. And I wasn't, but I was small. I was real small. I was probably 7, 8 years old, not over 10. And I was out there in the yard playing, and I heard this go to take it on, this something terrible. I ain't never heard nothing blake like that. And Uncle Elbert had tied that thing on his shack out there and took a double bit axe and was in the process of chopping its head off. But the old man couldn't see as good as I don't know, he got excited or something or other. And he chopped on that poor old goat probably for a minute or two, I know, before it died. I ain't never heard nothing like that before. But he finally got it killed and skin out or whatever you do to it. And my grandmother washed for him. She'd wash his clothes for him, and he'd pay her a little bit every week to wash his clothes. Well, Granny come down with the flu. And he come out there and I guess got his clothes. And I come in from school, and when you come in from school, you know, if you're young and you're starved absolutely to death. Well, we had an old wood cook stove there, and I looked up in the warmer. Granny usually had something in there to eat, and there was a big plate. And there was a little piece of meat there about as big as 3 fingers, and some greens, and some yellow-eyed beans. I'll never forget that. And God, it was good. I ate every bit of it. Granny was in there asleep, and I ain't gonna bother. She got up in a few minutes, I guess, maybe an hour later, I don't know. And I said, God, that plate you fixed me was good. She said, did you eat that? I said, yeah. She said, Uncle Elbert's one fixed that. Said he brought that. Said he heard I was sick. Said I wasn't about to eat it. And she ate it. I mean, I ate it, and it was good. It really was. But I'd stop out there once in a while and talk to the old man. You know, me and I was a child, he'd talk to me. Boy, he wouldn't let me see that motion wheel. And the old shack was, I mean, it was ramshackled. And it didn't have no bathroom, no running water, nothing. I mean, it's just a one room and a stove. And he had some kind of pink powder stuff that killed flies. It's fly poison. Had to be 1 inch deep and under his eating table and around his eating table. I don't see, I kept from poisoning himself, really. And he'd been out there working on his stovepipe one day. And he had a gallon can, metal can, with nails and stuff in it. And when he got done, well, he wasn't done fixing it, and he just left that gallon can up there, and his old ladder laid up against his shack. Well, a bunch of them boys come by that night, and they seen it. So they went out there, and they eased them nails out of that gallon jug, and they just capped it over that smokestack. They said it was just smoking away, you know. It just stood back. In about 15 minutes, that door flew open. And Uncle Elbert wore this underwear, long johns. They called it a union suit. You know, it had a trapdoor in the back of it. That's what he had on. Oh, he was just a pitch and a fit. Was going to shoot him. He had an old shotgun. He didn't let on. He went out there and took that bucket off his thing. But they was all the time doing something other to that old man. And I don't know. He was just a good old feller. He had to be good or he'd have killed some of them. And there's some of them ne'er-do-wells robbed him one time. And boy, that got everybody in the community mad about that. I mean, you know, it's one thing to have poke fun at somebody like that, but they may have handled him a little rough. I don't know. They come in and robbed him. I know that. And I think they built a little time over him. But it's just a bunch of trash, all it was. But that old shack got pretty much down, and they moved him from that to an old house on the property of his nephew. And he lived up there I guess he lived there for a year or two. And somebody gave him one of his picnic hams, and he let that thing stay out just a little bit too long and ate it and poisoned him and killed him. It wound him up. I don't know how old he was or nothing else. He was getting up pretty old. I'm sure he was in his 80s. But that was Uncle Elbert. He was one of the most unique people I ever seen in my life. Had an automatic shotgun, the only automatic shotgun I seen till I was pretty much grown. And the neighbor let me borrow it to go hunting one time, and I blowed it up. I always felt bad about that. But he was just something else. And I reckon at one time the old man had some money for, somebody said he owned a ranch out in South Dakota. For he kept talking about cowboys and stuff, you know. And he seemed to know something about that. But if he had much, it didn't show. I know that. He lived awful meager. He was just an old recluse, you know. And somebody said he had some kids, but I never did know of any of them coming around. So he must have just took off on them or something. But Uncle Elbert Waterpie, one of the most unique people I ever met in my life. He really was. And just you know, just one of these characters that you see out in the country from time to time. Thankfully, there wasn't no harm in him. If there had been, he'd probably killed somebody, because there's all the time somebody delving in him. I throwed a rock one time and hit his old shack there, and God, he pitched off as fed there was. It's just, you know, he just was one of these old men that was born in a bad mood, I guess. But once you got talking to him, he'd warm up, you know. But his life was real secretive. Well, that's about it. Thank you.